Hey there, I'm Johnny May from Piano with Johnny, and today you are going to learn everything you need to know about arranging and playing ragtime music. This is a crash course for beginner players, and in this lesson I'm going to teach you my top 3 rag rolls. You're going to learn the forward rag roll, the reverse rag roll, and the 8th note roll. These are your most essential rolls in order to play ragtime. And I'm also going to teach you the stride left hand, basically how we play the left hand. We're going to use the tune, Mary Had a Little Lamb, which is a very simple song, and I'm going to basically walk you through and show you how to apply each of these 3 rag rolls to the song. And then at the very end of the lesson, we're going to take the rag rolls and we're going to mix and match them. It's a ton of fun. Let me show you what you're going to learn. This is what the arrangement sounds like by the end of the lesson. So there's a lot to learn in this lesson. If you're more on the intermediate advanced side, be sure to check out the intermediate advanced lesson. Now what you're watching is a preview of our live workshop that the members at Piano with Johnny get to participate in. If you want to participate in these live workshops, you can by checking out the membership at PianoWithJonny.com, or you can just go ahead and check out the full-length course. We offer that in the videos section. So let's go ahead and start the live workshop. Okay guys, so let's dive in. Mary Had a Little Lamb. This is a tune pretty much everyone knows. And in fact, probably for most of you guys, when you first played the piano, this was something that you plunked out on the piano. It's a super simple melody, super simple chords, and this is the reason I chose this song. Is it's not a very complex song. You're not dealing with 5 or 6 or 7 chords. It's 2 chords for the whole song, and the melody is very simple. It's kind of like a 5-note position melody. So we're using some very simple content here to demonstrate how to arrange in ragtime, with the goal being that you could take other songs and do this with those songs. Okay, so we're going to work through the melody. We're going to go somewhat quickly here through the melody, and then we're going to start diving into the ragtime techniques, okay? So welcome everyone tuning in. I see Jesse is tuning in. Hello Jesse from Atlanta. Right on, man. Wolfgang tuning in live. Craig Childress, one of my good friends and piano students here in Southern California. And guys, we're going to jump in and talk about ragtime. Let's start with Mary Had a Little Lamb. Here's the melody if you haven't heard it. If you haven't heard it, I don't know what planet you've been on, but this is the most popular melody of all time probably. Simple melody, okay? So we're starting here on middle C, or rather on E, and this red dot here is middle C, okay? And we're going to start E 3rd finger, okay? Basically walk it down to C, walk it up to E, right? E, 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 that's 3 times, okay? 3 times on the D, we go E, G, G. Very simple. That's kind of like the first phrase, okay? Second phrase. It's the same as the first phrase, E, D, C, D, E, 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 E. There's 4 E's there. D, D, E, D, C. Got it? Very, very simple melody, okay? We'll play the whole thing together. If you're sitting at your keyboard, go ahead and play along with me. We'll go kind of medium tempo. Here it is. Ready, play. 3 times on the D, E, G, G. D, C, D, E, 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 D, D, E, D, and C. Okay, very simple melody. A lot of you guys probably know it. If you don't know the melody or you're totally new to the keyboard, you might need to pause the video after this is recorded and just kind of play through it. But it's a very simple melody. It helps to sing the melody to keep track of where you are, okay? And next, we're going to jump into the rag rolls. This is the really exciting part of ragtime, and this is what you just heard me doing in the right hand, right? The rag roll, okay? And there are 3 rag rolls that you must know, okay? There are more rag rolls, but there are 3 that I use all the time, and that's called the forward roll, forward rag roll, the reverse rag roll and the eighth note roll. I'm going to teach all three of those to you guys today. We're going to practice them a little bit. We're going to apply each one to the melody, and then we're going to mix and match them. That's really the end game for ragtime, is combining the rolls in a really interesting way. Okay, so let's start with a forward rag roll. What we're going to do, guys, is we're going to start on a C major chord, E, G, and C. Okay, this is an inversion of a C major chord, meaning the C, which is normally on the bottom, is on the top. Okay, and here's how a rag roll goes. Okay, so what happens here is we take the top note, the C, we play it twice, 1, 2, and then we fill in with the chord, and 3, and 4, and. That's it. That is the forward rag roll. Okay, now we're going to repeat this, but you really need to know that basic information. The top note goes twice, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, this is also the signature of the forward rag roll, is that you do a little hit on beat 1. 1, 2. There's a little gap there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's the forward rag roll. Okay, so I would just sit right now and just practice that. Get real comfortable with that. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, now this is very important. So listen carefully. Okay, the top note of your rag roll is your melody. That is your melody note. If you had a C melody note and the chord is a C major chord, this is what you'll do. Okay. Let's say the melody was, happy, that was the word, and you're singing happy, or whatever word you're singing, right? You would go happy, right? You would play the rag roll on C. Well, what if you have a melody note that's on an E, and it's a C major chord? Well, you just bring up an inversion. You go up to a higher C major chord. This is a second inversion C major chord, G, C, and E. Now, I want that E to stand out as my melody note. And I just do the forward rag roll in this position. See how that works? Bum, 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 bum. So practice in this position, okay? Now let's say the melody note was a G. Let's say that it was happy, that's a G, okay? Then you play a C major up here. This is a root position C major, and the melody's there. And then you do your forward rag roll. That's it. That is how ragtime works. Top note is the melody, bottom note is the roll, and you fill with the roll, okay? That's kind of the first thing. Now, melodies move, okay? And sometimes the melody will move mid-measure. It'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, how do you do that, right? Because you got a rag roll that took the whole measure, didn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, what you have to do is mid-measure, you got to jump up to the new position. You got to jump up here. Okay? And there are basically 2 points after the first, when you start the rag roll, there are 2 points where you can move to a new note. Okay? It's on beat 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So on beat 2, 1, 2, 3, and then on the and of 3, and 4, and, you can move to a new melody note. Is this making sense? So in other words, the top note of the rag roll is your melody note. And if you look at the sheet music, I've got the sheet music here for you. The first note, C, is a melody. The second, beat 2 on the C is a melody. And the third note, C, is your melody note. Basically, you have an opportunity to play 3 melody notes. So here's what I'm getting at. Let's say your melody went C up to E. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. You can basically move up to this position on beat 2, or 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what I did there, where I jumped up? 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you can move up on the and of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what I did there? And that's the one I like better, because you're playing the next melody note on the and of beat 3, which creates this syncopated feeling, because it's on the off beat. Let me do it again for you guys. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You see what I did there? So if your melody's going da-dum, you just play it like that. See how that works? Or let's say your melody went E to G, you can do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You see how that works? And this is really probably the most challenging part of playing ragtime, is basically moving to the new chord position so that you can follow that melody. The top note is the melody, okay? And so this is one of the biggest challenges is jumping up. And let's say you go E to G. If you go G to C. See how this works? Okay. So this is basically how we maneuver with a melody and with rag rolls. And what I've done here in the sheet music is I've basically put the rag rolls on a C chord, right? That's C. Same thing with the E melody, and then the G on top, okay? Okay. The last point I want to make before we move on is sometimes your melody note is not a C, an E, or a G. Sometimes your melody note is a D. What if your melody goes bum, bum? Well, what do you do there, right? What notes do you use underneath? You keep the same notes underneath. In other words, on this chord, you have a C on top, and now your melody moves up. You keep the E and G on the bottom, okay? So, in this case, let's say you're doing a rag roll on a D. It's like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense? What if you wanted to do a rag roll on an F? Well, you use this C position and put the F on top. Okay, what about an A on the top? Well, let's go to this position and make it an A on the top. Is this making sense? Okay. So you can basically play any of the white notes using a rag roll by just using chord tones underneath the melody that come from a C major chord. What about the B? I'd probably use this. But you could use this as well. You could put the C and the E on the bottom. Okay? So that's how you basically play ragtime. And something you can practice here is just walking up the scale. Okay, let me show you one basic way you can do this. Okay, you can also practice the same thing down. You can also move mid-measure as you're going up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? So hopefully this is making a little bit of sense. The way to think of ragtime, the top note is the melody. You use the chord to fill in with the rag roll. I taught you the pattern of the rag roll. The forward rag roll is always 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And then whenever you have a melody note where it's moving to like an A or a B, those aren't like part of a C major chord, you just use chord tones from C to fill in underneath. Okay? That's really important. And the last and probably the hardest thing I mentioned, and I'll say this again, is if the melody moves, in the case of Mary Had a Little Lamb, Mary, that 1, 2, 3, 4, that moves mid-measure. See what I did there? And we're going to talk about this here in a minute. But that is the basic approach to ragtime. Those are the things that you need to keep in mind. I put in the sheet music here how to do rag roll on a G chord. That's going to be, the second chord in the tune. Basically, for D, it'd be here. Go ahead and play this with me. G, B, D. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you put the G on top, it'll be here. Right? G, B, and D. And then up here, D, G, and B. Okay? And then the same thing applies here. Let's say, you're on a G chord and the melody is an A. Well, what notes do you use to fill in the rag roll? Well, I would use this one. This is the closest one, and then move the A up from the G, okay? And that becomes your note. Okay, and then the C, if you want to do C, I would use that. Okay, D would be here. E, I would use this. Okay, and then F, you could use that. You could use that. Okay, basically pick 2 chord tones from the chord and put it underneath your melody. Okay, and then you can practice the same thing going up. up. And let's use the, you know. And you can practice, you know, all of the chord tones on a G major chord, okay? So we're flying through, guys. This is a really, you know, really important part of the lesson because I really want to explain and I want you to understand how to play rag rolls, okay? It's a little bit tricky, but if you follow this sort of methodology that I've laid out for you, makes it so much easier to arrange in ragtime, okay? So just keep all of the things that I just said in mind. Top note's the melody, you got the rag roll underneath. And so basically what we're going to do next is we're going to apply this forward rag roll to the melody for Mary Had a Little Lamb, okay? We're going to go phrase by phrase. We're going to talk about how to apply it. And once you get the first couple phrases, you're going to go, okay, I get this. This is starting to make sense, okay? Let's look at the first phrase. Mary had a little lamb. Basically, in each measure, you have two notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So we have to figure out how to do the rag roll. Okay, well we know it starts on an E, so that's going to be, you know, the position on the chord is going to be G, C, and E. Okay, this is a second inversion, C major chord, E is the melody on the top. Okay, so we can start our rag roll here, but we need to come down to the D. Mary, okay, and that happens mid-measure. Well, remember what I just said, if you have two notes in a measure, then the second note, move down or move up on the and of beat 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, that's where you're going to move to the new position. Okay, let's try it together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and that becomes the second note of our melody, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Mary, and then had a. Okay, well, that's the melody. Mary had a, that's a C, so let's move down here. Hey, thanks for watching this preview lesson, and if you want to watch the full workshop, you can find it at PianoWithJonny.com under videos, and if you want to participate in these live workshops so you can ask me questions, all you need to do is become a member at PianoWithJonny.com. You also get to participate in the live Q&A, which we do every single month, where you can ask me your practice questions, and of course you get access to all of the video lessons at PianoWithJonny.com. When you become a member, you get access to a huge selection of sheet music. We add new courses and new sheet music every single month, so be sure to check out the membership. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.